Today marks the middle of the American leg in the season, and appropriately for Halloween, the drivers have to face what might be the scariest corner in racing. The corkscrew offers a breathtaking drop that everyone will have to buckle up and gut it out in order to take the victory. We'll see if any of them get spooked as we get ready to watch round 4 of the V-TEC GTR series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sports car racing has been a staple at Laguna Seca for decades now. So, to get a feel for what the drivers will be up against, let's take a closer look at the circuit. Welcome to Laguna Seca. Located just east of Monterey, California, it's hard to deny that this is one of the more scenic American road courses. It travels up and down a hillside which not only offers spectacular views, but one of racing's most iconic corners. Clocking in at 2¼ miles in length, 11 turns split up the current configuration. I say current because up until 1988, the track's layout was shockingly simple with a mere 9 dangerously fast corners. But despite becoming a much more technical track, this difficult nature was retained in its modern form. Turn 6 in particular places an emphasis on precision and daring with its tricky dip at the apex and narrow racing line. But the most well-known spot on the track is of course the corkscrew. Blind and kinked on entry, it then whips the driver through a chicane which drops you nearly 60 feet. It's earned a reputation worldwide for forcing even the most daring competitors to second-guess themselves. But there's honestly a refreshingly wide variety in types of corners, making it a perfect track for driver coaching and training. Elevation changes, differing cambers, and every sort of apex imaginable leaves seasoned veterans and newcomers alike spending hours trying to perfect a lap. With the track becoming popular for hosting IMSA, IndyCar, and MotoGP in its recent history, it also brings out lots of vintage racers due to the Monterey historics each year. Likely to remain a fixture on the American racing scene, this legendary circuit is almost always high on drivers' best of lists. Its history and its uniqueness are sure to delight all for years to come. See a little and a few of the features here around Laguna Seca. Like I said, it is very, very pretty around this circuit. But Sam, what are the drivers going to be facing with these GT3 and TCR cars facing this place?
Well, Laguna Seca is one of the 3 racetracks you get when you subscribe to iRacing, Joe. So these drivers should all have plenty of experience with it, if even just from their rookie days on iRacing Road Series. And normally you come to Laguna Seca, you think, oh, the corkscrew's a hard turn. I've got to get the corkscrew right. I've got to practice the corkscrew. And subsequently, everyone's kind of good at the corkscrew. You know, everyone challenges it. Really, the turn that's always thrown me a curveball, and I think it just threw a curveball to the car on screen in the background right there, is turn 6, the left-hand corner that leads up to the corkscrew. That it's very easy to get that wrong on iRacing. And unfortunately, when drivers do get it wrong, it can lead to some ugly spills.
We'll keep an eye on that today, see if anybody falls victim to it. But we have a championship underway in both of our classes, so let's take a look at the GT standings first. Callum Wright over Tobias Burka. You might notice that Richard Galuska, who was challenging Callum for much of the season, has suddenly found himself down in 3rd. That's because he wasn't around last round, and we don't believe he'll be here today as well. Instead, Burka is able to jump him, but we don't think that it'll be a fight between them in the championship now that Richard's missing out on 2 different events. Eidelberg and Brown are the final 2 and the top 5 in the GT standings. What about the TCR standings, the slower class in this field, Sam?
Well, considering 70 points are separating the top 2 leaders in the Premier standings, you would think that these TCR standings might be a little bit closer. Well, they are. There's only 63 points separating Marcus Walton, who currently leads the standings ahead of Tobias Olsen. But that is still heavily in Walton's favour and not making easier by the field that as practice wraps up here at Laguna Seca and you just see the session advancing in the background, Marcus Walton is faster in practice for the class, so maybe he'll be able to extend that lead today, and that's going to be a bit of a headache for the rest of the field if he is able to do that.
Of course, if you've never watched this series before, and especially if you just watched last race, well, things are going to switch around for you. We have round 6 and 7 effectively, really, because it is a double header today, as we do for most of the season, a sprint race and a feature. The two different classes have the Audi R8, that is the GT3 class car for the faster ones, and the RS3 TCR, that is the slow class, you see the front-wheel drive car. The cars, however, are fixed setup, so drivers really don't have to worry about fiddling with that. They just have to get out on the track and try and figure out how to run the fastest they can. They have penalty points if they run off track too much. There are a couple places where you can rack them up, but there's a couple where you really don't want to get any incident points because an off track could end your race very quickly. Now, if you've been watching here on the Global Sim Racing Channel and you want to help support us, or you just want some cool gear to wear, you can check out our merch store. There's a link in the description where you can even get a baseball cap with GCR on it. And these baseball caps actually have we've attached a way to throw baseballs with them so that you could set up a batting cage anywhere you need, just on the fly. So make sure and check those out if you're into baseball and you want a baseball cap, because maybe you could just have yourself some fun there. Again, link in the description if you want to check out our merch store. Right now in qualifying, they've just started, so nobody has any times in yet. And they've only got 10 minutes with both classes out there at the same time, Sam. That might be a little tricky, I have to imagine, today.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get my head around the baseball cap that throws baseball balls for you. That's almost like a race car that races for you. No one said, oh, wait, Robo Race. That's interesting seeing where that goes. Think we'll ever get Robo Race on iRacing here, Joe?
I mean, I guess it would be a case of you set up the AI on it. I'm not sure. That would be an interesting exercise, but sort of fruitless for most people. We're still looking for drivers to try and get some times, and looks like Linford's going to be the first one. I will note, you can see that it's quite dark out today, Sam. It's only 78 degrees on the track surface, so should be pretty grippy conditions, which should be good considering the traffic, which, well, between even the same class there on screen, already looking like it is a little bit tricky to work their way around.
You know, in the middle of a desert here, really. That's why you get all this yellow, background around you, all the dust and sand that you have in this part of the world. But yeah, I guess it never rains in iRacing or sunny California or something along those lines. But these drivers will have plenty. Well, I take that back. I was about to say they have plenty of grip. They're not going to have plenty of grip. These cars are notorious, or have been notorious so far this season, for struggling to get the tyres up to temperature at the start of a run.
Burka not having trouble getting the tires on the GT3 up to temperature. Burka managing to take the pole away. Yeah, the TCR cars, the ones really who are not good at the start of this race, so that's not the conditions they wanted, I'm sure. Marcus Walton comes across and is in pole now in the TCR class as well, as we see him come around the hairpin.
Yeah, and this is one of those drivers who normally does struggle to get his tires up to temperature. And yeah, even though he's on provisional pole right now, his first qualifying lap was 2 seconds slower than what he did in practice. So he'll be looking to find a little bit more time out there as he builds those tire temps up.
Watching Heidelberg try to get a little bit of a quicker lap in. His first one is a 47.4. He's got to get ahead of these TCR cars here. So a 28 will do it, 28 flat. That's good enough for third, just ahead of Nick Brown on the inside of row 2.
Yeah, I think Nick Brown has struggled a little bit with qualifying so far this season, especially earlier in the year. I know his lap time on the board right now isn't nothing to shout about. It's about 7 seconds off of our provisional pole sitter, but in practice he was only 1 second off of the fastest time in practice. So Nick Brown seems to have a car coming to him. I don't know if he was new to the car at the start of the season, and we'll see where he can place today.
Walton coming around again. He's been the man to beat most races, although very fallible in a number of ways. As you mentioned, struggling with the tire temperatures. He goes about a second quicker that time. That puts him 2.6 seconds clear of Ledvig, who's the next one back. And the 84 is just coming around the final hairpin now, Sam. Let's see if he can respond.
Yeah, well, Marcus Walton, like I say, he ran a 1:29 in practice, but I actually take a closer look at the practice times now. He was the only one to go sub 90 seconds in practice. So Walton did have a class of a field there, and right now things looking good for him in qualifying. It must be said, Joe, I think we have a little bit on the smaller side of a field size today, so that will help these drivers out in qualifying. They should be able to find some track to themselves.
Seen 12 drivers out there qualifying, but 14 have signed up for the session. I know at least one of them has an EOL penalty. That'll be Chris Howard in the TCR class. You see Olsen crossing the line. He improves to a 32.4. That's good enough for second, but still 1.7 clear of Marcus Walton.
Yeah, Marcus Walton really having the stranglehold on the field and TCRs right now. Things a little bit closer between Burker and Wright in the other class. Burker having just a tick over 0.3 of a second over Wright.
Yeah, Wright has just moved into that P2 recently, so he continues on. Looks like he's ahead of Burker right now, but they've got about 3.5 minutes left. Walton once again crossing the line. This one did not count, so he wasn't able to improve. Ledvig's going to follow him. In fact, Ledvig is behind Morelli. I wouldn't think that the toe is much use around here, so not sure why he's following so closely. Let's see what the 84 can do this time. A 31.6, and that is going to bump him ahead of Olsen into second place. Still 9/10 to make up on our pole sitter. Oh, and Linford then takes it away.
Yeah, nice lap by Linford there. Yeah, I wonder what Ledvig could have done had he not gotten held up a little bit by Morelli there at the end of the lap. I don't think that was planned. That was just, they ended up on the same bit of track together, and of course no one ever wants that in qualifying.
James Payne did improve his lap time, but he stays in third. Still has about half a second to make up on Wright in that second spot. We're down to 0.7 of a second between Walton and Linford. Still a sizable gap, especially on a lap this short, but at least it is coming down. Nick Brown, in the meantime, managing to make it into third position as he spins it out. So I think that's going to be the end of his qualifying without time to get back around and start a lap. No, he's going to continue on, actually, it looks like.
Niels Hundehedge has been out there for a couple of laps. He has yet to turn a lap time that counted, and now he finally does, and he moves up a couple markers ahead of Nicholas Morelli. So the only two drivers who haven't turned a time are the two TCR drivers you see at the bottom of the scoring pylon on the left side of your screen there, Chris Howard and Simon Jacobson. As we mentioned, really no point for Howard to go out because he has an EOL penalty. He might as well grab a drink of water, take a bathroom break, and get ready for the race.
Oh, the goalpost keeps moving. Marcus Walton even faster now with a 130 flat. Linford now has 1.3 seconds to make that 0.8 now, as Linford just crossed the line and goes a little bit quicker, but he's still in second place. Ledvig is looking to respond. He's coming around the final hairpin. If this one isn't better, he's got one last chance to try and improve. Across the line. Must have been an outlap there. Jens Ledvig getting a blank on that time through. Olsen up to second in the meantime.
He's 0.6 of a second back of Walton. So these TCR cars definitely getting faster as the run goes on. That might be something worth considering during the race. I don't know how much their tyres will cool when they come in for a pit stop. We won't see a pit stop in the first race because that's only 15 minutes long, but the second race is a bit longer, Joe, at 30.
Keep focusing on this battle for pole down in the TCRs. The GT battle is a lot closer. Callum Wright is coming around to finish another lap with time to start one final one, I'm pretty sure. Only 3/10 up to Burka, who is in the pit lane, so Burka cannot set another lap at this point. It is all up to Callum to try and get ahead of him. Nick Brown could yet improve as well. He sits in third within range. It is an improvement, but it is only 2/10 now instead of 3/10, and Callum Wright's going to abandon his final lap. The 31 will settle for second at best.
Linford just put another lap on the board and he's going to bring it to a halt, so he won't do any better than third. Nicholas Morelli just went fourth fastest in TCR.
See Olsen getting ready to take the checkered flag here. So can he get 0.5 of a second faster? He crosses the line. He goes 1/10 quicker. That's not going to be enough. He'll stay in second place. Up next, Simon Jacobson getting his first lap time in. Nope, no lap time. So he had an off somewhere along the way for the 33. He'll stay in last on the field. Niels Hundhedge now coming out of 10 into turn 11. One of the places where we could see passing today. This sharp left-hand hairpin that leads you onto the front stretch. What does the 14 have? He's the last car with a time right now. On the timing sheets, that 32.1 becomes a 31.4, and that bumps him up to fourth.
Last driver there across the line here will be Alex Seca. He was in third, he stays third. He was about 0.5 off of his fastest time that lap alone.
That's going to end our qualifying today. So drivers are now set in our 14 car field. Looks like we should have everybody grid up today. So let's go through our starting order for you. As we mentioned, Tobias Burke on the pole. Tobias Burka, rather. Callum Wright will be flanking him to his outside in that GT class. Alec Fake stays in third on his final lap. He'll be next to Nick Brown starting P4. Then you've got James Payne starting in the fifth position. And our 6-car field in these GT cars is Lucas Eidelberg.
Yeah, Lucas a little bit off the pace there. We'll see if he can pick it up a bit. Marcus Walton will be leading the TCR field. He outqualified Tobias Olsen by half a second. In the end, Olsen will start second. Milo Linford will start third ahead of Niels Hundhedge in fourth place in class. Nicholas Morelli will be on row number 3 for the TCR class ahead of Jens Ludwig. Simon Jacobson and Chris Howard did not set qualifying times. They'll be starting from the back.
There's your 14 drivers getting ready to take the green flag here for, again, this is the sprint race, and their finishing order, we should mention, will determine the starting order for the feature race. So drivers do have incentive to try and finish well, not just for points, but to set themselves up well for the longer 30-minute race, which will be coming after this. Waiting for the Porsche pace car to lead them around on a lap. One thing that won't take effect in this race, but will certainly be a question mark in the next race, is that pit entry, Sam. It's, well, actually both the pit entry and exit, I would say, not as often brought up, I feel like, at this track, but both of them, to me, kind of are defining it when you've got pit stops involved in a race.
Yeah, so let's explain that exactly. The pit exit is a pretty sharp hairpin on the inside of the final corner. We've definitely seen drivers overshoot that in the past and get into the wall and carry some substantial damage down the pits. Likewise, the Andretti hairpin is what they call turn 1, or turn 2 rather, but essentially it's the first corner. And the pit exit is a hairpin inside of that. And if you overshoot that, you don't hit the wall, but you get onto gravel, and that can lead to all kinds of calamities with cars spinning or, losing time at the very least.
Well, hopefully our drivers have practiced it. They'll get a good look at it as they weave slowly around that Andretti hairpin. Another good place for passes here, very early in the lap. Can be trouble sometimes on the first lap, though. With a rolling start, that should hopefully help that a little bit. Drivers being able to spread out can see as we look back from some of our TCR cars. And then coming through the newer infield portion, which was introduced in the late 80s. Interestingly, to lure F1 in, but they never came. They elected to race at Phoenix, interestingly, which didn't turn out to be that great of a track from how history has now come to see it. But regardless, it gave us great IndyCar racing around here. We've had IMSA racing here. Of course, top-tier motorcycle racing has taken place at this track. I can imagine trying to take it around some of these corners with a lot less downforce and so much more power. Here's that turn 6 that you were talking about, Sam. That gives us a good chance to look at how tricky it is through here.
Yeah, Callum Wright, for whatever reason, our driver starting in second place, he brought it to a halt on the warm-up lap early on in the lap, and maybe he just had to fix the setting, but he's rejoined the front of the field now. He's back in order, they're all getting set to go. It's just a little bit of shuffling, but everyone's okay, everyone's in place and getting ready for a race here. There's no real easy turnaround here, Drew. You can do hundreds of laps and still find your way into a mistake.
They're going to be starting just a few laps here. 15 minutes, not going to give them a chance to do hundreds, maybe a dozen. So as they come out of turn 10, the Porsche pace car peels into the pit lane. Burka has control of the field. Around that last hairpin, those 6 GT cars waiting for the green flag. Green flag is out, and it's a bad jump for Burka, a very bad jump. Callum Wright to his outside already with a nose ahead, but he's not fully clear as they come up to the Andretti hairpin. Let's see how the braking is going to be. Can he finally get it done? Still side by side for the lead between these two, and it's going to go back in favor of Burka. They're still going to be side by side. We're going to have to cut away soon as this battle for the lead still won't set it out, and unfortunately it looks like Wright falls victim. Let's go to the TCRs.
Yeah, very similar start there, but this time, we got trouble there. Olsen has won the little battle against Walton. That is Wright who was off.
And another one off coming out of turn 4. That's Alex Thake, too. We saw Wright go off as, wow, it is a big battle for the lead down into turn 5. Walton's going to come out ahead on that one. Now it's between Olsen and Hoondhedge coming up to turn 6. Not a corner you want to go too wide through, but they're both going to try it as they bang doors. We got someone spinning behind them. Into the wall goes Milo Linford.
Oh, and there's a slowdown penalty being served there. I think it was by Hoondhedge. It's all kinds of crazy going up the hill into the corkscrew. We got side-by-side battle between Hoondhedge and Morelli, and Olsen maybe serving another slowdown. This is all allowing Walton to pull away. So Marcus Walton had a very similar start to our overall leader, Tobias Burka. Not a good one, and it looked like he would drop back to second, but then things turned back in his favor later on in the lap.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at Callum Wright. I thought we had a change for the lead in the TCRs. My apologies. Callum Wright is just getting back into the GT field. So Walton's still about 1.3 seconds ahead of Olsen, who is currently in second place. Morelli moves himself up into 6th with that second time down into the Andretti hairpin. But right now, it is Burka leading our GT field with 1.6 seconds ahead of Nick Brown. Great start for Nick Brown. Started in 4th. He's up to 2nd.
Yeah, there's all a little bit of carnage and craziness going on in both classes at the start there. The driver who came off worst is Alex Sake. He has had to take his car into the pits for repairs. And of course, that's not good news when it's just a 15-minute race.
Ooh, Olsen started to pull away from 3rd place, but he had an off in turn 5. And this has brought Simon Jacobson back up to him. The battle for P2 is on. He's bringing some friends. That's Hoondhedge, Ledvig, Morelli, and Howard all behind him.
I wonder how many of these drivers are carrying damage, because there was definitely some rough driving in the midfield.
And Olsen is off. Olsen is off out of the rainy curve. He clatters into the tires. He gets it going, but that moves him from 2nd down to 7th. Watching the replay here, a little, off in the dirt.
Yeah, it's an unforced error right there, and unfortunately Olsen, I mean, even though he was running second, he hadn't had a good start because he was leading this race for a bit and then started making mistakes, and that one finally bit him. Oh, contact between Morelli and Hoondhedge. Hoondhedge was able to save it. Morelli goes through the gravel.
It was right after Hoondhedge got passed by Ledvig down into the hairpin as well. Snuck up the inside. Maybe Morelli thought he could take a spot as well. Ooh, he came in way late there.
Yeah, and while all this has been going on, Nick Brown had to spin from second place a little before that. That actually cost him that position to James Payne. So James Payne is our new P2 runner. We continue to watch this battle back in the TCR field between Hoondhedge and Howell.
This is for fourth position. Both are leaders taking great advantage of all the squabbling behind them. Burka 3.5 seconds ahead of the next car, and Walton 4.5 seconds ahead of the next one. We'll get a sense from on board just how steep of a drop it is down the corkscrew out of Rainy Curve. Safer for both these cars this time through there. Hoondhedge still ahead of Howard and actually starting to pull away a little bit.
Yeah, I think Hoondhedge is one of those drivers who might want to be a little bit careful because you do lose championship points if you get involved in too many incidents, and I think he's been right in the thick of all this action early on.
You know, we've got a replay with Alex Thake, and he's been in the pits for almost 3 minutes now. Did we catch what happened to Alex, actually?
I believe he had we did. He was one of the drivers who crashed on the opening lap out of turn 6, but this is him recovering back to the pits here, so it happened about 30 seconds before this. But I believe he was involved in contact that sent him into that wall.
This is actually the pace lap, it appears. So it'll be very start. And I think, yeah, Thake was the one that wrecked in turn 4 is what it was. We did catch that a little bit, at least him just afterwards, seeing him stopped at the side of the road.
Yeah, so see, in both classes, the driver who started second place really put up a good fight. This is when things were going well for Olsen. For Wright. And of course, things fell downhill for him around here. There we go.
This is the Fake. So contact involved? Yeah, definitely. Oh, and he hits the concrete instead of the tires. That's going to cause even more damage. That was Brown that got into the side of him. That's why he is now stationary in the pits. Incredibly, everybody is still out there, even though we've had multiple offs. Taking a look at Nick Brown, who still continues on in third, but fending off Callum Wright, who's recovered, looking to try and get himself onto the podium.
These two are teammates, so I wonder if that means Brown won't put up too much of a fight against Wright here. This isn't a great place to make a pass into the final turn. I mean, it's doable, but it's a lot easier to do it down the front straight. Let's see if Wright can get a good exit here and try and get his mojo back. We saw his spin early on in the race. He was probably saved by the fact that he was at the apex where it started, so it was a lower speed spin.
Oh, and a much higher speed down into the Andretti hairpin. Callum Wright showing Nick Brown how it's done into that first braking zone. And Callum needs these points, Sam. Remember, he might be leading the championship, but Burka is the one that is chasing him right now. So with Burka leading, he's got to try and get back up and minimize the damage as much as possible.
And now we're over halfway through this race. That's how quickly a 15-minute race clicks off. Things starting to calm down a little bit. I think Brown gave Wright a little bit of a favour, but not sure why, really. Wright's probably not going to gain any positions here. James Payne is another 7 seconds up the road.
So we take a look at Ledvig now. Still chasing Jacobson. This is for second place, the number 33. Really, with the closest fight we've got down in the TCR class. out of turn 4 up towards turn 5. I want to say this is the first time I've watched front-wheel drive cars race here at Laguna Seca. I guess besides maybe the Jetta many, many years ago. It's very interesting seeing how they handle around some of these corners.
And of course, the downside to these cars is if you flip them over, they don't roll back on their wheels. So these guys climb up the hill right now, in through the corkscrew, once again hitting their marks. Just biding his time.
Keeping him honest, Jacobsen currently can't make any mistakes, really, as any little slip-up is certainly going to open the door for Ledvig. But so far, he's been a cool customer. Down under braking, Ledvig looking strong into the final hairpin. Something for him to note for later as we hop on board, looking up ahead. It's a big climb up and over the crest, and then a steep plunge downhill into the first braking zone.
And Ledvig can't be too patient here, because we're only looking at, what, 4 or 5 laps left to go next time by. These laps are clicking off in a hurry, well, the clock rather is clicking off in a hurry, and yeah, Ledvig's got to take the opportunity when it presents itself.
Stays with him, but he's not been seeing anything quite yet. Heading up to turn 5 once more. And when is lap traffic going to become an issue as well? Burka has a little bit to go before he gets to Olsen, which is the first one he's going to reach. And I think he actually, yeah, he already overtook Linford. So they have reached at least one of the TCR field.
Yeah, obviously the nice news there is with the smaller field, you don't have to deal with lap traffic too much. And Ledvig's by Jacobsen. He's done it under braking on the corkscrew. Second place now goes to Ledvig. Now can Jacobsen fight and try and get it back?
Oh, that's a brave move to make it up into the corkscrew. Even though it's a big braking zone, it was tricky to try and get it in there. That was a huge clatter on the curb from Ledvig. And from that, Jacobsen tries to get his nose in, gives him a little tap to the rear, but can't squeak through. Ledvig's going to hold on to P2, but clearly Simon thinking about trying to steal that back.
Not too far behind you, so he will probably be...
What happened to Callum Wright? Callum Wright had an issue, and this was out of Rainy Curve. Just now, this is very similar to what we saw from one of our TCR cars, except he managed to stay out of the wall, but he still took a tow.
It just goes to prove every turn is tricky. I think that's the second time we've seen the car spin there today. It's the second time we've seen Wright spin, and that's not normally the place to see chaos. And yeah, like I say, tow into the pits.
As we come back to Jacobsen, we're going to be joined pretty soon because Burka is scooting by Olsen and Morelli. Whoa! Deep into the inside once again in the corkscrew. That seems to be a favored place for these TCR cars to try and make the move. Jacobsen getting it right back from Ledvig the way that he lost it. And
again, I think our overall leader, Tobias Burka, might be coming up to lap all these drivers, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Now Burka can afford to be patient. He's got 6 seconds over Payne behind him, and as he crosses the line here, as Tobias Burka crosses the line, it's less than 2 minutes 30 to go, so that's looking at 2 laps to the checkered flag.
Just a report, we don't need to go to it, but Linford, for some reason, took a tow. I didn't see him hit anything. So he is now in the pits and out of this race prematurely.
Yeah, he'd had a bit of a rough race. He might have even just realised he wasn't going to gain anything this late on in the going with so little time left. So here comes Burke. He's about to catch Ledvig and Jacobsen. Ledvig's going to appreciate that. He gets past on the straight. That's good news for him. Jacobsen gets past on the straight too, but he has to brake probably a little bit earlier than he would have liked to have done, but it doesn't seem to have hurt him that much. He's able to retain a cushion over Ledvig, and now they're coming to about to be starting their final lap because that's what Burka's coming to, and now they're behind Tobias Burka. They'll be getting the white flag as time by.
Taking a look at Tobias as he leaves behind that battle, riding on board, plunging down through Rainy. That late apex just glancing the curb, and then through the high banking of turn 10. White flag going to be displayed very soon here for him. Let's not forget in all of this that we haven't mentioned much. Marcus Walton, 12 seconds ahead of second in that TCR battle that we were watching between Jacobsen and Ledvig. This has been Walton's race to lose.
There's a three-way battle going on in the TCR class on the final lap now between Chris Howard, Nicholas Morelli, and also the tail end of that train is Tobias Olsen. And they just had to let the lead lap car of Nick Brown navigate his way through, which he did so. And this is going to be a decent result from Nick, podium finish, providing he keeps on track on the final lap. I'm sure he'll take that.
Yeah, considering how things started out with a little bit of contact. We'll look to the inside through turn 4. Chris Howard under threat from Morelli. Does Morelli give another go? He's going to have to do it the long way around because it looks like Howard's going to defend down into turn 5 as well now. And he's going to try and make it stick, but understeer costs him, and he has to back out.
Things could get a little dicey as Nick Brown comes up to that battle to put a lap on Simon Jacobsen and Jens Ludwig as they're coming into the braking zone for the corkscrew. But Jacobsen is able to hold. Oh, Brown's overshot. It comes back on into the track, into Jacobsen. They both go on by. Jacobsen loses second. Let's go to the lead.
Yep, they're coming to the line, and they're going to be together, but possibly in the wrong order. Nope, he's going to let him by. Tobias Burka, victory for him in the GT class, and victory for Marcus Walton in the TCRs as well.
So Ledvig gets by Simon Jacobsen for second in TCR on the final lap, and I'm sure he's not a big fan of Nick Brown after all that.
Howard's going to come out ahead in that three-way battle. Oh, no, he just hit the wall. What in the world was that? Howard drifted his way to the pit wall.
Is that hard to here?
Well, I mean, it could be. If it did, what a time for it, because he just had to press the gas and he crossed the line without losing a spot. How bizarre. We're going to try, well, actually, before we take away, we're going to go through our finishing order here for this sprint race. We'll come back in a little bit after this. Tobias Burka, your winner in the GT class. James Payne finishing in second there. Nick Brown took third place, rounding out the podium. Lucas Eidelberg, the last of those drivers in the GT cars to finish. Callum Wright and Alex Thake were 5th and 6th, but DNF'd here in the sprint. What about the TCR class?
Marcus Walton didn't get off to the greatest launch off the start line, but he was quickly able to gather up a lead and go away and do what he does best and win. Jens Ludwig wins on a bit of misfortune for Simon Jacobsen over in that battle for second in TCR. Niels Hundhedge comes home in 4th place ahead of Chris Howard, rounding up the top 5 after his EOL penalty. Tobias Olsen, boy, he'll want to forget that race, 6th place. Nicholas Morelli, he was doing well earlier. Unfortunately, it all unfolded for him, and Milo Lansford is last of the TCR class.
That's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with some interviews, hopefully, as well as the second race, the feature race here at Laguna Seca. Welcome back to Laguna Seca. After the sprint race here for the V-TEC GTR series, we have caught up with our winner in the GT class. It was Tobias Burka with a 9-second gap back to the next car. Tobias, rather. It looked like that the start really wasn't the best one for you, but the rest of the race went well. Tell us about the green flag and what happened there.
Well, hello. It came too quick for me. I wasn't ready for the green flag so early. And so I had a very bad reaction and couldn't get myself to second place. But he made a mistake, unfortunately, was because I was looking for a tight race. But unfortunately, he, I don't know, it was in the third corner or something, and he lost it, and then I just drove away.
Yeah, it looked a little bit lonely out in the front. You did come across a number of battles, though, throughout that TCR field. With this track not having a lot of long straights, did it make it tough to try and pick your way through?
Well, it was a bit tricky, yes, but in the end, I was a bit patient too because I had time, and so I think I waited for the right spots where I could take him, and it worked in the end, I think. But it was tricky, yeah, it's true.
All right, well, this will put you on pole for the feature race. Congratulations. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you in a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
That's Tobias Burka, winner in the GT class. Also have our winner in the TCR class, Marcus Walton, ready to talk to Sam.
Yeah, Marcus, looked like you were in a little bit of trouble at the very start. You dropped back to second place, but then you were able to get it back quickly.
Hello, yes. Well, yeah, my P2 had a better start from the line, but yeah, was able to gain it back pretty quickly. Of course, that was a mistake, but yeah, no problem. And glad I could win, also to have had a clean race. So quite some cars in the pits. And yeah, don't know what else to say.
Well, I'll ask you this, and I know I sound like a broken record because I think we ask you this every single race. How tricky was it to get the tyres up to temperature? We noticed in qualifying your lap times were getting faster each lap by like a second or two.
Yes, the very first lap is quite hard. It's very understeery. And by lap 4, well, lap 4 is the fastest, I think, or lap 5. Lap 2 is still like lap 1, but then it's getting better. Just have to brake a bit earlier and take it easy.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to talk to us, and we wish you the best of luck in the second race.
Thank you.
One last interview for us. It looks like we're going to be talking to James Payne, who is second in the GT class. James, you managed to stay ahead of Nick Brown, who was certainly looking like he was charging a little bit towards the end. But P2 put you on the front row. Do you think you could maybe try and do what we saw in the sprint race here and challenge for the lead down into turn 1?
Yeah, I don't know about that. The guys up front there are quite a bit quicker than I am, it seems like, over a single lap. But I feel pretty confident about battling with Nick. That was towards the end there, running into the TCR classes, you could see that they really held me up a little bit. I didn't navigate as well as he was, and he cut the lead down from something like 7 seconds down to, I think it was down to 1 second at one point. So it really will be a challenge because we're going to probably go through them two times here.
Now, obviously, the cool conditions aren't very good for the TCR cars at the start because we keep talking about the tire temperatures for them needing to come up. But what about on the old tire model here for the GT3 car? What was it like out on the track in that vehicle?
Yeah, with the cold tire, the cold temperatures, you're quite a bit quicker. It seemed like when my practicing, it was around 2 seconds for me per lap. I don't know what the other guys are going to be seeing in their lap times, but that's about what I was at. So here when it warms up, our times will go down a bit, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll watch that weather and we'll watch your times. Congratulations on a second. Hope we'll get to talk to you in a bit.
Yeah, thank you.
That was James Payne second in the GT class, but we've got to take another quick break here as we get ready for the feature race just starting up. We'll come back in a moment with that. Welcome back to Laguna Seca. We're getting ready to watch the feature race of the V-TEC GTR series. And boy, have the conditions changed. It is sunny out. The air temperature isn't too bad here in California. But sunny California means that the sun is pounding on the pavement now that it's in the afternoon. It is 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Things have switched around, and now the TCR cars are going to be able to heat those tires up, but the GT cars are going to be slipping and sliding around. We'll go over our starting order in a little bit. But Sam, we saw some really good fighting in that first round. And surprising to me, it seems like the corkscrew is the favorite place for these TCR cars for passing.
Yeah, we definitely saw some interesting battles. But what concerned me, Joe, was the chaos we saw at the start of a race. Nick Brown getting into the wall there. And not just the incidents, but also the fact that in both classes we saw a fight for the lead into the first couple of corners. We might be about to see a repeat of that. And I'll be very interested if that's the case to see how it unfolds. But who knows, maybe everyone will be a bit more patient because this race is twice the length of our first one.
For the neutral viewers' sake, hopefully the battle goes on beyond that first corner, as it unfortunately spread apart in both classes throughout that sprint race. It is a longer one, and there will be a pit stop, as we said earlier, so drivers will need to come in for fuel. Won't see what we saw at Road America, where the TCR class actually ran out towards the end of that endurance race that they ran there. They should be well within the window. As we watch Callum Wright, who's looking to try and get back up to the top spot, take a few more points so that Burka doesn't get too close in this championship. Not too many rounds left, so he just has to fend him off. Watching Linford dive down through the rainy curve as well as we watch from on board this TCR car.
And don't worry if you're a bit impatient, that 10-minute clock there in the top left is just for insurance purposes to make sure everyone gets into the session before it advances to the race. All 14 drivers who win the first race are already signed into the session, so we won't need to use up that 10 minutes. In fact, I believe in 5 minutes, if that, will be advanced into the race session. Just letting these drivers get used to these different conditions right now.
We've actually got about 20 seconds left before they're going to be gridding up. So thankfully, it'll be very quick that we'll get going here. So you see Walton coming out, practicing that pit exit. Seen a few of them practicing the pit entry as well. So the drivers are aware of the difficulties that are facing them. Clock hits that 10 minutes to go. So the flag now waves. Checkers are out for the warm-up, and the drivers are going to be making their way to the grid in a moment. We'll have another rolling start here, so there will be a pace lap around the track. Session comes over, and a little bit more cloud cover it's looking like here that we're getting, and it's cooled down a little bit, not a lot, 113 degrees now on the track surface. Let's go through your starting order here today for the feature race. Up on the pole after winning the sprint, it is going to be Tobias Burka, flanked by the likes of James Payne in second position. Nick Brown, could he maybe get himself a win potentially from that third spot? He'll have the inside down into the Andretti hairpin. Lucas Eidelberg will be starting in fourth spot, and Callum Wright well out of position compared to the pace that we were seeing earlier. Did not have a good time in the sprint. Started on the front row for that one, but he'll be on the back row for this one in fifth position. Alex Thake, another driver who DNF'd in that sprint race, will be starting from the outside of row 3 in sixth spot.
The field starts to roll off. Here is your TCR field being led by Marcus Walton, ahead of James Ledvig. Simon Jacobson, he might be a bit hot under the collar. We don't know, but he'll be starting from third ahead of Niels Hoonhead. He came home with a nice little fourth place finish last race, despite the fact I think he was involved in a little bit of argy-bargy early on. Chris Howard, he started from the back in race 1. He's got 3 cars behind him this time, including Tobias Olsen. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to carve his way through the field. Nicholas Morelli and Milo Linford will also be hoping for better races this time around.
So the drivers rolling their way through the infield. One of the flatter portions of the track through here, interestingly, in this new part, before they start to head back uphill through turn 5, and it rejoins the old track I've seen some footage of the old circuit and the cars racing on it, and it just looks incredibly fast and scary since they rejoin here and head on up to turn 6. So they were carrying even more speed up into this left-hander back in the old days when cars had less grip and less safety features. You can see how little runoff there is even now. Coming up the hill, up the Ray Hall straight towards the corkscrew over that blind crest. This high angle doesn't really do it justice, and that right there shows you how they come over blind. There was a bit of contact between Payne and Burka just now as they went through the corkscrew side by side. It was very light. They got to be careful about that.
There's one way to stop Burka from running away with the win in the championship. Yeah, I always tell my friends or people listening to a broadcast, if you want to know how steep the corkscrew is, I had a friend who almost flipped a golf cart over on it once.
Burka now has control as the pace car is in. Oh, he's not going to be caught out this time. Look at this, a very good jump. In fact, it's second place who gets the horrible start because Nick Brown is into P2 as James Payne, many car lengths back and under attack from Callum Wright. Already up to P4 for him as they break down into the Andretti hairpin. Wright slips into third as he gets to the inside. And coming off the corner, he's got the job done. Let's go to the TCRs.
Yeah, once again, Walton, not a great start. I thought he might have elected to go earlier, but he's able to fend off a challenge from Jens Ludwig. No, he isn't, because the next turn is a right-hander, and Ludwig has the inside, but goes in very conservatively. No, he doesn't. Walton overshot the corner. So Ludwig actually did it nicely, and he takes the lead. Walton has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, very tightly packed here in the TCR cars. Jacobson even could have a chance to try and take one over Walton as they get ready to break for turn 5, but he's not going to stick it out. Oh, 3 wide down in the back, and it turns into a mess. That's Morelli off course, as well as Howard. Linford had some contact, but he keeps going.
And that's unfortunate for those drivers, because the reason they started at the back was they had a bad first race. So I'm sure they're not pleased with how today is unfolding for them. But overall, much cleaner start, Joe, between the two classes. Although hopefully I haven't spoke too soon because the cars, of course, still tightly packed together. You see the TC. Oh, Ludwig got slowed down. You saw him running over our camera there. I thought iRacing would let him get away with it, but it doesn't. He gets the slowdown and he's losing multiple positions. And of course, that's another saving grace for Marcus Walton.
Walton, who still leads ahead of Jacobson, is being challenged by him and Hundhedge. Olsen, is he going to be able to get by? Yeah, he also passes Ludwig. He falls all the way to 5th. Just with that one mistake, you can see he's still close behind Olsen as they break for the Andretti hairpin, but Olsen's going to cover him off into the left-hander, so he'll retain it. Not missing much up in the GT class. It is still Burka, who is about, well, he's ahead of Wright instead of Brown now. Wright, since we were last looking, got into second place. There's about 0.7 of a second.
He did it exactly the same way he did in the first race, Joe. He made the move underneath Brown on the inside of turn number 1, was able to outbrake him. I don't think Brown put up too much of a fight. But of course, this is great news for Callum Wright because he had a horrible first race. I wonder if the colder track conditions contributed to that. And now the track's warmed up a little bit and he's up in second and trying to run Tobias Burka down for the lead and win. And honestly, doing a good job of that.
So come down.
Oh, we got a car in the wall. Lucas Eitelberg has put it head nose first into the wall.
This is another case of rainy curve, proving to be very tough on the exit. It comes down, it's a long plunging left-hander. Watch the right side of the car. Oh, once again, clipping the dirt is what causes it.
Yeah, I feel we've watched the same replay about 3 or 4 times during this broadcast and just uploaded the different paint each time.
Meanwhile, Eidelberg gets it going, but he falls to 6th position from that. Jacobson is still within touch of Walton up in the TCRs, staying within half a second of him. And that's probably what he needs to do while Walton has cold tires, is just stay in reach and hope that he gets a little bit of a mistake.
I don't know if he'll get it though. Walton's weakness, if anything, from what I've seen throughout the season, has been cold tyres. And he dropped the second at the start of this race, he dropped the second at the start of the first race, and I think it was mistakes from the leaders both times that have gifted it back, and he's going to be hard to beat now. Battle at the back of the field here, Drew.
This is between Howard and Morelli. These were the two that went off on turn 5, lap 1, coming together, and they're coming up to that turn right now, but Morelli a little too far back. He was close before turn 3 and had a tiny off that set them into this position.
And the battle for the overall lead is also on. Wright has caught Burka. Burka going a little bit defensive down into Andretti. He's been watching that F3 button that shows you how close the cars are. He would have seen Wright running him down, and now he sees him right on his rear wing. Kaloum takes the entry of the corner there a little bit wider and trying to see if he can get a good run through turn 3 or turn 4 rather.
With a full 25 minutes left on the clock and a pit stop still to happen, this is going to be a difficult task for Burka to hold back Wright. He's clearly had pace. He looked strong at the very start of the sprint race, and then, of course, at the end as he scythed his way through the field. Coming up the hill, not going to see an opportunity here at the corkscrew. He's just a little too far back.
Yeah, but I think Wright will be sensible about this. He would have seen, obviously, as well, how quickly he's capturing Burka. He knows there's a lot of race left. I just wonder how upset and angry at himself he still is from the first race. And if that's him maybe thinking, I need to get this done now. Yeah, he got very close on the braking there.
Really running into the back of Burka, and that's going to cost him a little bit of time. I don't know if he wants to hang out too long. Drivers, I've often heard them talk about, Sam, just getting into the rhythm of the driver ahead, just sort of a target fixation, but instead you're suddenly matching pace to the driver that you're battling with.
Yeah, well, Wright's definitely not doing that. He's obviously taking different lines at this stage. He's going into the corners a lot deeper, but there's some good and bad to that. The bad we've already seen is that he gets much worse exits, so Kaloum might need to train things up a little bit to make us work.
Back in 4th place, Payne under attack with Fake closing in, and Fake down to the inside into turn 5. Can he get this done? Gets a good exit off the corner, climbing up the hill, slots into line. The 98 takes before.
Burka is wide in 6th, and that's all Wright needs. Wright gets a run up the hill as Tobias Burka just overshot turn 6 a little bit, got a couple of wheels in the gravel, and our new leader is Kaloum Wright.
Let's take another look at that. Patiently waiting for the mistake, and it presented itself, the 171. There's that wide turn 6. It's almost lucky that he didn't spin back across the track.
Yes, and so now, of course, the roles change a little bit. Kaloum Wright has the clean air. He's got to set the pace of the field, and Tobias Burka will try and follow him. I don't know if he'll be able to. Wright has already pulled away massively.
Our closest fight is still between Fake and Payne, and actually that is close down into the Andretti hairpin. Fake having to go defensive on Payne. Defends him off successfully. Ooh, and Payne with another little duck and weave down into turn 3, getting into the mirrors of that number 98 quite a bit.
Good little scrap going on between these drivers right now. We're still early in the race, not even a third of the race done, and of course we still have that pit stop, so a lot can change. Maybe that might be what Payne has to do, is think about making a move in the stops, or maybe just pressure Fake into a mistake like Wright was able to do the Burka, but not happening there. Fake keeps it on the black stuff, and they head up to the corkscrew.
Certainly looking pretty close up into the corkscrew. He's about a car length back. That's only last lap type stuff between these two, and Payne knows it. He doesn't go for the dive there. As much as Fake has track position, he's not looking as confident now that he is ahead of Payne, with a few tiny mistakes here and there, allowing Payne to continue to apply pressure. Up the front stretch once more. Down to 21 minutes left to go. I believe we should be into the start of the pit window now.
I think most cars will elect to stay out there, though. No one really getting held up. There's not a whole lot of battles on tracks, and no lap traffic yet. Even the drivers at the back, despite that incident we saw in the first lap, have had a fairly clean race, so Wright has to wait just a little bit longer before he hits the back markers.
I wonder if that's going to be the best hope for Burka, because once they get into that slower class, we right on board with Payne there, looking ahead, getting a glance at this beautifully scenic desert track. Let's look down at Olsen and Ledwig, because, well, Ledwig, I would have thought, would have overtaken Olsen by now, but he seems to be struggling to try and get by.
Olsen actually started further back in the field than Ledwig, so he's had a pretty neat race himself, moving up to 4th place from, that's 6th on the grid. He's been heading in the right direction. And biggest mover is Callum Wright, our overall lead up, 4 spots. Everyone else kind of close to where they started.
You'd think with Ledwig, with his good run at the last race, he goes a little bit wide out of turn 4. He's gonna, I would think that he would have an easy time trying to overtake the number 32, but he's just been stuck back here. Now, they are also within range of Hundhedge, who's in 3rd position. He's about a second and a half up the road from Olsen. We'll have to keep an eye on whether or not they are gaining on Niels, because a 3-car fight could be the thing that Jens needs to try and have a chance to pass.
Ledwig went a little bit deeper than Olsen into the corkscrew that time by, but further back. Callum Wright has finally caught lap traffic. He's just gone by Howard and Morelli, caught them at a good part of the track. And, as these two battle, that's not going to be good news for Tobias Burka. He might be about to get held up here. He's got a couple seconds over Nick Brown.
He's going to get one. Morelli's going to pull out of the way. Howard ahead of him next, but this is certainly not helping. He is having to slow up a lot more than what we saw for our leader. Onto the front stretch, he'll finally get freed up as they start to pick up pace and cross the start-finish line once again. The rest of our field, though, does have to get through here. That put about 3 seconds between Wright and Burka. That certainly seemed to hurt the 171. Watching from on board now, he's got a little bit of clear track ahead of him. Next one is going to be Linford, who is still yet to be passed by Callum Wright. Burka obviously pushing hard as he's been off track recently and trying to catch Callum Wright back down. So we're waiting for our leaders in the TCR class to get lapped by our GT class, and we're just about halfway through. But both still need to take a pit stop, as we haven't seen anybody in, scheduled or otherwise, so far in this race. We watch our leader Callum Wright plunge down. He finally starts to catch Linford. But once again, traffic playing very well, in fact, extremely well for Callum Wright, because Linford's going to come into the pits. So will Jens Ledwig. Everybody just getting out of the way of the number 31. Not necessarily intentionally, but it certainly is freeing up the track in front of him. Shouldn't see tire changes here in these TCR cars, as they want the heat in those tires. Oh, and we are getting them. Interesting. Ledwig goes up on the jacks. Linford does not. And that's going to give him the position over Ledwig. That class still being led by Marcus Walton. The number 17 has about 5 seconds ahead of Jacobson. Now that the tires have warmed up, it looks like that Walton has got the car under him and is not worried at all about those behind. Once again, having the pace over everybody else in this TCR field. He hits the corkscrew in that number 17, dropping down. Halfway mark, just about to come across. Taking a look behind him. Chris Howard still fighting off Morelli. These two are not able to get away from one another. And now, oh, that was Payne, who was in the GT class, who was looking to overtake them and put a lap down on them. And it just did not work out as Morelli was suddenly trying to find himself a place to pass. He now pulls off to the outside, way out on the marbles, actually. That slows him up a ton. Payne finally gets through. He's not battling anybody directly right now. And the next one, going to just let him by because Howard is going to come into the pits, but Morelli stays out. Oh, but Morelli overshoots the final corner. And that's not going to help. So now that we've had Ledvig and Lindford pit, big gap between them on tires versus no tires. We're seeing roughly 12 seconds. So what's Howard going to do now that he hits his stall? Again, I did not expect drivers to take tires, and he is taking tires. Fascinating. Must be a relatively big drop-off on pace with this heat then. Ledvig goes by. Howard still stationary. So he's going to come out behind, still waiting for most of our TCR, class to come in, and all of our GT class to pit. Callum Wright still about 3 seconds. So ever since they passed the initial traffic, looks like Burka's finally getting a little bit better brakes because they've now gone by Walton, who stays out. Nick Brown going to have to overtake our TCR leader as well to put him a lap down. Things starting to break up in the field with those pit stops. Our closest battle is between second and third in our TCR class. That is Jacobson and Hundhedge. Payne is going to pit. There you can see the GT car, the first of our GT cars to come down the lane. James Payne all the way up to his second place stall since he started on the front row. Hits it nicely. And it looks like Eidelberg stays out, so it's only going to be Payne that comes in this time. No tires, just fuel, and he's off and going. So when do we see Callum Wright, Burka, and Brown come in, our front runners in that class? Starting to get to the end of the pit window here. Once we hit 10 minutes to go, we don't expect many to be able to go much farther than that. Back on the battle between Jacobson and Hundhedge for second position. Waiting for these two also to pit as they come out a rainy curve. Jacobson a little bit tighter down to the apex. And around turn 10, are any of them going to come in? Jacobson is not, but Sam, it looks like Hundhedge is going to take his pit stop, but the question mark is going to be whether or not he takes tires. We've seen a couple take them, and one not. Linford being the only one so far who has not taken tires.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I like the strategy of taking tires. First off, you've only got 12 minutes left to go in the race, and secondly, well, it takes time, you know, and also these tires are still going to have a little bit of temperature in them from being out there on the track, and I think you're going to still want that, even though the track temperature is high. I almost wonder... Oh, okay, there we go, 2 tires. I almost wonder if that's a mistake. I don't know. We'll have to talk to the drivers after it.
Well, Hundhedge decided not to. He did not take tires. And he comes out in 5th position ahead of Linford, who he was ahead of before. So we're really not going to get an idea of things until we get our other stoppers.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it was a mistake from the driver that took tires, though, Joe. You know, just forgot to deselect them, perhaps. I've done that before. I've been very angry at myself when it's happened.
I feel you there. I've been there too. And only James Payne out of our GT cars to have come in. Still on the next time around, nobody joining him. Everybody going as long as they can in this faster class.
Marcus Walton comes in from the TCR lead, though. Oh, and everyone else coming in behind him. Jacobson in, Nelson in.
Those are the last two
Oh,
other...
there we go. First victim, Olsen, into pit entry and into the wall. Completely David Coulthard did it. Fortunately, a lower speed.
Take a look at this one. Lower speed and no front wing to worry about.
Yeah, let's do a Robbie Walker impression here. Here comes Olsen into the pit lane and oh!
I think you'll
I'm
have to work
sorry.
on that, Sam.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, he eventually comes to a stall, and Morelli, the last of our TCRs to come to the pits. Walton is back out, no tires. Jacobson, no tires. Hoondhedge, no tires. Linford, we saw him earlier, took no tires. Olsen is taking tires. So this means Ledvig is now our highest car who did actually take fresh ones, and he is in 5th when it all cycles through. Oh, we've had a problem with Nick Brown. Nick Brown out of turn 10, and he's going to elect to come into the pit immediately for obvious reasons.
Yeah, missing the whole front hood on that car. This looks like the penultimate corner. He's coming through, gets on the gravel. Yep, gets the rear on the gravel, goes head on into the wall.
And they have no spare car, so all he can hope for is a bit of repairs if the car is damaged on handling or speed. Eventually gets to his stall. This should give Payne a position. Heading back to Hoondhedge in this battle for 2nd, though.
Yeah, Jacobson and Hoondhedge in a good little scrap here. Hoondhedge is right on the rear bump of a 33 and looking, yeah, can't pass there. Although I've seen drivers prove me wrong before. Oh boy, Hoondhedge wants by.
Takes another look down into turn 10, but taking it shallow, that's going to cause him to be a little slow through there. Poking and prodding, seeing if he can get anything away from Jacobson. They have fallen way away from Walton, so this is the best these two can hope for, unless Walton himself wrecks out, and then this becomes a battle for the lead. A little bit too far back coming up to the Andretti hairpin this time.
Our overall leader, Kaloum Wright, is now making his pit stop.
Burka stays out. Fake stays out as well. We got a long time before we get to Heidelberg, so starting to see at least some of the dominoes fall. Right with a very, very quick stop. He was 5 seconds quicker than Nick Brown and James Payne.
He also spun the tyres a little bit on his pit exit there. He's in a hurry to get back out. Oh, he doesn't want to be in too much of a hurry here. Clipping that gravel could lead to you spinning or making a mistake. Going to keep half an eye on Wright on this outlap, because remember when his tyres were cold in the first race, he made 2 silly mistakes, and we'll be trying not to repeat that here.
So far, so good as he comes up to turn 5. He's pretty much all by himself. He's got a car a little up the ways, so he will hit some traffic. That is one of our TCR cars, so he will catch him somewhat quickly here. Watching to see if we're getting anybody else come in. Heidelberg's going to stay out for another lap. Burka is in. Oh, Burka almost looked like he cut the pit entry a little bit. Can you get a slowdown penalty for that?
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. How do you serve a slowdown in the pits?
We're hearing
Maybe.
that you do not get a penalty, at least a time penalty, but he might get an unsafe pit entry. There was the replay. Fake followed him in.
It wouldn't make sense to make drivers serve a slowdown penalty and pit entry. They're just stopping their pit stall and it'll probably even out.
Wright retakes the lead. Burka returns into 2nd. Burka with a similar pit time to Wright. Same thing with Fake. So for some reason, Brown and Payne taking a little bit more time. Hard to gauge exactly what's going on in this pit strategy. 6 minutes left to go. We have only one car left to pit. That is Heidelberg, but he's at the tail of the GT field.
I think the leaders have a little bit more time to think about their pit strategy. You know, they don't have to worry about catching anyone in front. They can crunch numbers without being under any kind of pressure.
28 finally comes in. The one who's made the fuel last the longest of these Audis, but it doesn't look like if he was saving fuel that it's paid off, because boy, is he a long ways back from the next car up. That means our closest fight now is for second in the TCRs. Jacobsen and Hundhedge, and it's going to swap positions because Jacobsen overshoots the corner. Hundhedge moves into P2.
Yeah, Hundhedge was hounding him a couple of moments ago, trying to force Jacobsen into a mistake, and we'll get a replay of it here. I don't think he was really pressuring him at the time, but Jacobsen made a mistake, and Hundhedge was there to take advantage of it.
Hundhedge is one of those that did not change tires. Excuse me, Jacobsen and Hundhedge were both ones that did not take tires. So I wonder if Jacobsen just outbraked himself, expecting a little bit more grip. Hundhedge says, thank you very much. That's going to be his second place.
And so Olsen, who did take tires, just made a position up on the rally. Not sure if his lap times are really fast enough to make up for the extra time he was stationary for taking those tires, though, is my fear. And even though he is setting pretty decent laps right now, look at the time in the top left corner. He doesn't really have enough time to make anything out of it. Jacobsen could get Hundhedge back, you know.
That is true, because they're still relatively close together. And there's good points for the taking, depending on how aggressive they want to be for this second spot. Ooh, this time almost a reverse of what we saw last time. Hundhedge going in deep into the corner, and he gets a shove from behind as Jacobsen almost pokes his nose in. Oh, and he's going to try once again, taking it shallow into turn 3, but that compromises his exit. Jacobsen falls back now.
Yeah, that's pretty much a repeat of what Hundhedge was trying to do to him about 3 or 4 laps ago. And they're about to go another lap down to our overall leader, Kaloon Wright, who after everything cycled through, he's holding down an 8-second lead, so he's feeling pretty comfortable right now.
He's going to interrupt the battle. Wright can be patient if he wants to. Take his time, although these cars can be a whole lot slower over the course of a lap. So he can give it a couple corners, and then he's got to get going. Watch from on board right. He gets one, ducking to the inside of Rainey. Jacobsen goes another lap down. Don't quite get the second yet. Hundhedge up in front of him.
Yeah, Hundhedge, I think, got the better deal there, and he didn't really have to slow down at all to let Wright by. So let's see, right through the final turn here, and the clock is just ticking underneath 3 minutes. We're looking at 3 laps left to go.
Oh, and those fresh tires are finally paying off for Ledvig. He just passed Linford. That puts him into 4th place.
Oh, I think Linford might have actually been in an accident, Joe.
Let's see. Trying to find it. How did this happen? Oh yeah, this was with the GT car. This was with Eidelberg. I just noticed that Eidelberg came into the pits, and it was in the corkscrew that this happened. I think, yeah, so we should be able to see it here at the top of the hill. Eidelberg had suspension damage from it, which is why he took a tow. Linford keeps going. This was all down to Linford simply outbraking himself. Oh, there it is, right there. Wow, shoved him off the track and then some.
Ooh,
so a miserable day for the 128 comes to a premature end.
Yeah, Berker just almost had a calamity with Simon Jacobsen. Not really worth a replay or anything, but he just caught him so fast going into the corkscrew that things could have been very ugly if either of them had been a little bit more aggressive. So even though, things have calmed down throughout most of the field, these drivers have still got to be, cautious about each other, because even though Burke is so much faster than these two, he's having a nice race going in second place, and now he finally gets by. These two are battling hard for second position, and you know, he wouldn't have wanted them to have messed up his race too. And Hoontage left a bit of a door open for Jacobson, but is able to hold the position.
Let's stick with this fight, but I hope the drivers calculated their fuel right, because I just watched Callum cross the line. It was literally at about 1:30 to go. Ooh, and that was the inside of turn 4 for Hoontage denied, so that's going to slow him up. That's going to mean that Callum is going to get one extra lap, and so are all the GT cars behind him, so hopefully they schedule that.
Of course, Callum Wright has the comfort of that. If he can't make it 2 more laps in fuel, he might as well back right out. He's got 12-second lead. He can try and finish this race a bit quicker. But right now, I want to keep an eye on Hoontage and Jacobson, because Jacobson is all over the back of Hoontage as they come up into a corkscrew. He's looking to the inside. He's there. You can't close the door, Hoontage. He does a little bit. They tap fenders, but Hoontage holds onto the position and is able to retain that second place for now. But boy, Joe, this is going to get interesting all the way down to the checkered flag. It's the final lap for the leaders. These drivers about to scout it.
Absolutely. Just stayed on the power, used that front wheel drive to good effect, but the 14 has got to really fight hard, because look at Jacobson continue to pressure him. In fact, he's very close, and he's going to get the slipstream up the front stretch down into the Andretti hairpin. Is he going to be covered off? No, he can't be. He's too late to try and block him off. And it looks like Hoontage is going to go for the over-under. Instead, he manages to get back underneath, but the track is going to switch back here. It's going to turn to the right, so he's on the wrong side of the course. And Jacobson manages to get himself into second place. Another attempt at the switchback. He's covered off once again as Jacobson almost squeezes him off the road. Fierce fighting for third position here. Second position, Linford took a tow. So mysterious circumstances. We'll go back to him in a little bit. Meanwhile, Callum Wright coming through the final corner. It is going to be victory to make up for the loss in the first race in the sprint race of today. The feature race P1 for the number 31 here at Laguna Seca. Walton's going to follow him home with a victory down in the TCR class. Another big gap for him, 18, almost 19 seconds back to second place. Number 17 looking on a roll. Oh, and another attempt. Jacobson and Hoontage were side by side, and that's going to open the door for Ledvig. Ledvig looking see if he can get on the podium here. Out of the final corner, Ledvig with a run on his teammate, and I think he'll get one, but not two. He is just barely by as Jacobson gets second. Ledvig gets third, just barely ahead of Hoontage, who finishes in fourth in the end. Incredible stuff for our TCR class. Howard follows them in 6. Olsen in P7. Still not sure what happened to Linford. I don't know if we have a replay of what went down for him. Let's see if we can find it. I don't even know exactly what happened here, as I haven't had a chance to go and check. Oh, here we go. I think we saw a bit of it there. He's coming. Oh, I think we've gone a little bit too far back, I believe. So not sure that we're going to be able to find it, but that's going to end our feature race. We're going to come back with our unofficial results, and then we'll bring you, of course, the driver interviews, but stick around because on screen we'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Laguna Seca. We just watched the end of the feature race here for the V-TEC GTR series, and it was Callum Wright who came back from only a podium in the sprint to take the win here today. Actually, not even a podium in the sprint. So he DNF'd, I forgot already, and all the way that he had dominated today. Tobias Burka couldn't take back-to-back victories. He finished in second in the feature race, but still good points today for him. Alex Thake finishes third, with James Payne finishing P4. A lap down for Nick Brown, unfortunately, but still within the top 5. He was the last of the GT cars to finish. Then you get into the TCR class. Marcus Walton, he stormed to the front and took away back-to-back victories in the sprint and the feature. Simon Jacobson battled for that second place, barely finishing ahead of Jens Ledvig, who finished third in his class. Then it was Niels Hundhedge, who unfortunately missed out with all the fighting. He failed to see that Jens was coming up behind him at the line and had to settle for fourth. Chris Howard with a P5 in his class, with Tobias Olsen in 6th. Nicholas Morelli finished 7th with a DNF. No, actually, he did make it to finish, it looks like. Linford, the only DNF down in our TCR class. And the last of those drivers, Eidelberg, behind him, also a DNF in the GT cars. Up first, we have Tobias Burka ready to talk to us. Tobias, it wasn't back-to-back victories, but still a second place. This seems like a good points day for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I couldn't go the pace with Callum, but at the end of the day, I'm very happy. Was very successful here at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, when you saw that he had caught you and you still had a majority of the race to go, including pit stops, were you going to try and hold him back, or was it something where you just kind of knew he was quicker and you're going to try and run your race to the best of your ability?
No, of course, I tried to hold him back because I knew there were only certain spots where he had a real chance to overtake, and my plan was to defend at exact these spots. But unfortunately, I made a mistake, and then he caught me on the way to the corkscrew because I couldn't go on the throttle as soon as I wanted because I slipped a little bit to the right and came on the dirt. But yeah. And then he was gone, and I knew I couldn't stick with him. It was pretty clear that he was faster than me.
We saw a difference in pit stops between some of the drivers. Both you, Wright, and Thake were very quick in the stall, but then looking at Payne and Brown, they had about 5 seconds more. Are you aware of any alternate strategy that's viable around here? Because that seems too quick for tires, and we weren't exactly sure what was going on.
I have no idea. Well, I'm usually trying to stay out as long as possible and take as slow as at least amount of fuel with me, and to stay the shortest in the pits. But yeah, I don't know what. Maybe they had some damage or something. I don't know.
That could be possible. Well, congratulations on 2 podiums back-to-back here today at Laguna Seca. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you at Watkins Glen.
Thank you very much. See you.
As Tobias Burka, second place today after starting on the pole. Up next, our winner in the TCR class, Marcus Walton, ready to talk to us. Marcus, this one looks a lot more straightforward for you. You got up to the front, and it was a whopping 18 seconds, I believe, at the line between yourself and the next car back. Did it feel easy from the cockpit?
Yeah, it's great to win both races, also very clean, and I was just running my race and maintained the gap. Very happy.
This was starkly different conditions compared to the first race, with the sun out and the track a lot hotter on the surface. Did it make it a lot easier for you to get the car going and into the condition that you like?
Well, later in the race, it doesn't really, once you get used to the track, it doesn't really make a difference. I struggled a bit in the very first lap on cold tires. It was just understeering all the way and nothing you can do. It's so hard. You have to go really slow. But once the tires get up to temperature, was okay.
Next round is going to be the last of the American tracks in the season over at Watkins Glen. Are you looking forward to that? Do you have much experience racing the front-wheel drive cars over there?
Yes, definitely looking forward to it. Never drove a front-wheel drive there, but I will manage, I think. Quite some experience in other cars.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to seeing if you can continue the domination you've been showing much of this season. Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you. Good night.
It's Marcus Walton, winner in the TCR class. Up next, we've got Alex Thake, who managed to finish in third in the GT cars. Alex, this one looks like it went quite a bit better than the first race.
Yeah, it went a lot better because obviously first race died in like turn 4, but this time managed to survive the first lap and yeah, felt good in that.
Yeah, we were just talking a little bit of tires with Marcus Walton as well, except they've got the new tire model over in the TCR cars. What was it like with 120 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures on the track? Were the cars struggling by the very end?
I didn't find it too hard. I mean, obviously, it did get a bit more understeery as it went on, but I found you still get a sweet spot with the way that the setup is on these cars, where like halfway through the race, the tires start getting a lot of grip into them. I find, but that's maybe me. It was not too bad.
We also talked about Watkins Glen being up next, but what about the remainder of the season? Is there any track in particular that you're looking forward to that you think you might be strong at?
I don't really got any particular favourites looking up, but I enjoy Watkins Glen. It's a track I do enjoy driving, so I'm just going to take them as they come and sort of say, just try and get best results I can at each of them.
All right. Well, best of luck on those. Congratulations on a podium here in the feature, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay.
That was third place finisher Alex Thake. And we do have second place in this race, Simon Jacobson, who had an almighty battle this time around with Hundhedge for most of it. Simon, talk to us about it from your perspective, because you two swapped back and forth, about a half a dozen times?
Yeah, it was a close close race between Nils and I, and I was really struggling with both the hot temperatures this time around in this race, and also the track itself. I'm not very keen on Laguna Seca, so in a front wheel drive car it's also very difficult with these hot temperatures. But all in all, we had a good battle, especially the last lap. We were really fighting for it, giving it all. Had some opportune sense, both of us really, and I tried to keep it as clean as possible. But yeah, it was good fun, definitely.
We've been noticing that the starts for the TCRs look pretty frantic, honestly. They both did in the sprint and the feature here today at Laguna Seca. Is there something about this style of car that makes everybody a little bit more aggressive coming in the first few corners? Because there was 3 wide at one point on the start of this one.
I definitely think that the TCRs they give the driver the feeling that you can push it a bit more, that you can, especially in the beginning, that you can go for the gap, which is possibly not there. It might be because it's slow in the acceleration, and you have a bit of time to sort of gauge your opportunities, and then take them if you feel like it really. I think that's one of the things about this car, that you can really, it gives you the confidence, at least in the beginning, to sort of go for the overtakes. And also the beginnings and the starts of the race are always hectic, and especially in the sprint race, I went from, I started 8th or something, and within one lap I was up in the front, just by, I say, some luck and some positioning is what you need in the beginning. Keeping a cool head is definitely all that's all important for starting these cars.
There we see some of the battling on screen that you two had with the contact. Well, congratulations on getting second. I'd say it was hard fought and well earned today.
Thank you. Yeah, tried to give Marcus a bit of run at the beginning, but yeah, I was struggling with the track and the tires, and then he eventually got away from me. But it was a good race.
It looked good from our perspective. That was Simon Jacobson, second place in the TCR class. And that's going to wrap us up with our interview. So We're going to thank a few people before we go, including the V-TEC GTR series for bringing us on for this inaugural season of coverage, and also to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Sean, Sam, and Dougie, with a little help in the background from Steph Schlocker being our spotter. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well, so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. As we mentioned, the next race 2 weeks from now will be Watkins Glen, Thursday, November 14th at 1:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.